Nebraska has another stacked recruiting weekend with multiple high 3-star and 4-star prospects visiting Lincoln. So in today's video, I'm going to run over every single recruit that's visiting Nebraska, what this means for the Huskers going forward, and will Matt Rhule land these guys in a search for a top 10 recruiting class. So really quick, we have a jam-packed recruiting episode today. Make sure to smash that like button if you're getting fired up. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. I'm posting a video every single day this summer talking about Nebraska football and Nebraska recruiting. So if you're a diehard fan of this program, join the family of 3,500 other diehard Nebraska fans and hit that sub button. It would be greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let's get into it, talking about Nebraska and their recruiting weekend. And we saw last weekend a bunch of 4-star and 5-star players got on campus. They were raving about how much they loved Lincoln and the coaching staff. And Matt Rhule, he's doubling up another great recruiting weekend with multiple 4-stars. So let's just start it off going one down the list, with Bryson Webber being our leadoff man, 4-star cornerback out of the state of Texas. Looking at his offer list, he's down to us, Baylor, TCU, Utah, and Oregon State. So a bunch of scattered schools. He's been on OVs to every single one of them, and Nebraska's the last one on his list. So talking about what he does on the field, he's a very lanky cornerback, listed at 6'3", but he runs a legit 4.4. I talk about it all the time that Matt Rhule loves to have speed and height in his wide receivers. He loves that in his cornerbacks as well. So he can play all over this defense. Honestly, watching him on film, he looks like a guy you'd prefer to have as a nickel corner, but he can play that press man corner on the boundary as well. You'd feel comfortable putting him at safety. So he can do it all for the Cornhuskers. And again, just looking at his stats from last year, 22 tackles, 2 INTs, 2 PBUs, and 2 TFLs. He does everything, and this would be a massive addition for Nebraska. Another really big recruit, 4-star from Texas, and we know that Nebraska is trying to lock down that state. So Bryson Webber is the first guy there. There's currently a crystal ball for the Cornhuskers to land him, but it's going to be a battle. TCU specifically, they're fighting hard for his talent. So I'd imagine we're going to get a commitment in the week or two after his OV this weekend. But let's take it to an in-state guy, the number 2 player in state. We saw the number 1 player, Christian Jones, was on campus last weekend. Chase Loftin will be here this weekend. 4-star tight end out of Omaha, Nebraska, listed at 6'5", 220. And man, this is a huge weekend for Chase Loftin. As of right now, I do not like our odds to land him. He's been on a couple OVs. He's been wowed by other programs. Kansas State, Texas A&M, Missouri, Florida State. They've been after him very hard. I don't think Nebraska is currently in his top 3. You've got to try to fight back in his recruiting process if you want him. And he's the real deal. I mean, one of those really dynamic tight ends who can do it all. Really a vertical threat. He has great hands, great speed, great height, like I just mentioned. In order to lock down this guy, you got to lock down Omaha in general. Those are, where the best recruits in Nebraska come from. Inside that Omaha Metro, you gotta do well here with Chase Loftin, a guy who's coming out of Millard South High School. If there's one high school need to lock down Nebraska, it's that place, because there's a lot of other good recruits in the future that the Cornhuskers are trying to lock down. If you can't get him, you might not be able to get any. So Chase Loftin, a guy to definitely keep your eyes on. We need to play a little bit of defense in his recruiting process, and that starts this weekend. So speaking of the offense, we talked about a tight end. Now let's go to the wide receiver position, back to Texas. Then this is Raheem Hutchins. Now I talked about him in a video I made about a week ago, and I love this guy as a prospect. Honestly, a little bit underrated, but he's a 4-star according to On3, and just a guy that you want to get the ball in his hands. He runs a 4.4, very shifty. He has a juke move, a spin move. Again, basically you put him on a little bit of a slant or a little bit of a screen, he'll take it all the way. So that's what you're getting here with Raheem Hutchins. He's not the biggest wide receiver in the world. Again, he doesn't have the best hands in the world, but that speed, that run after the catch, oh my goodness, he is elusive. And yeah, I mean, really, really good prospect. So talking about his recruiting process a little bit, it's down to us or Memphis. We were in his top 3 with Houston, and then he dropped out of even considering Houston. So he went to Memphis 2 weekends ago. Now he'll go to Nebraska. I think he's going to see a big difference at just the level of facilities, coaching staff, fan base, and I think that's going to be enough to have him commit. So Raheem Hutchins, definitely a guy who's on commitment watch, and hopefully he makes it official after Sunday. So another 4-star wide receiver the Cornhuskers are going after. Let's take it to the offensive line. We haven't talked about this position yet, and this is the number 2 player in the state of Hawaii. The Cornhuskers have done very well there over the last couple cycles, and he goes by the name of Houston Kahana Torres, 3-star offensive guard, almost a 4-star prospect. Listed at 6'3", 270 pounds. And man, I mean, honestly, watching him on film, he should be a 4-star. He's a complete brawler. You might know the name Preston Tomoa. Nebraska landed him in Hawaii last recruiting cycle, 4-star guard. He honestly might just be better than what Preston was going into his senior campaign. Really feel good about Houston Kahana Torres. Other schools in the mix there, Cal, Michigan State, Arizona State. He took visits over there. So Nebraska's basically in his top 4, but you got to get this guy. Get another Polynesian prospect there. We love to talk about these Polynesian players and how talented they are. He's just as talented as the rest of them, a player who really has a high ceiling and is just a mauler at offensive guard. So definitely another guy to keep your eyes on that offensive line. But let's take it back to the defense, specifically the secondary. And we have 2 guys here who are just freak athletes. Starting off, Jeremiah Jones, listed at 6'6", and Nebraska's recruiting him to play both safety and potentially outside linebacker / rover. He can really do it all in the secondary, and he's just an incredible athlete. He's a guy who's from the state of Kentucky, and he's down to us or Louisville. And watching him on film, really good instincts. Time and time again, is just finding the man to tackle, going up, swatting away balls, really good hands. Really, he can do it all for us. And honestly, one of those really underrated recruits. Yes, he's not a 4-star, but he should be a higher 3-star. Nebraska kind of needs to catch up on his recruiting process. We offered him a little late. Louisville had the head start on him. Just another guy you need to wow on this recruiting visit, specifically Evan Cooper. He needs to get to work there with Jeremiah Jones. But, I mean, you're going to take a 6'6" guy in the secondary every single day of the week who can tackle at an elite level, who can make plays in the secondary at an elite level, who can get interceptions at an elite level. That's what you're getting here with Jones. So hopefully Nebraska can wow him. Last guy here, another player in the secondary, and this is Noah King, listed as a 4'4" speed guy who is also 6'3", 3-star defensive back, and it's us or Kentucky in his recruiting process. A kid who's coming out of Ohio, and just another player who has a tremendous amount of upside. Yes, he's pretty raw. Yes, there's things he might need to work on when you're watching him on film, but again, he's 6'3", he runs a 4'4". Truly, he's a player that you would feel comfortable, putting against some of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. That's what his potential is, to be that boundary corner for you. So I really like Noah King. I thought another player who's honestly a little bit underrated in his recruiting process. Matt Rhule is very good at finding these diamonds in the rough and getting them to visit campus. So, man, I mean, a lot of good players coming on campus for the Cornhuskers this weekend. We have a quality wide receiver, tight end, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, players in the secondary, so all over the field. We're hoping Matt Rhule can lock these guys down. So I should mention there's a couple other guys who will be visiting Lincoln. These guys are all commits. Caden Vermoss, Mooberry, Jackson Carpenter, and Tanner Turk. And the reason why that's important is they're going to build relationships with these other recruits. They're going to build friendships. And ideally, they're going to peer recruit these guys and honestly pressure them a little bit to commit after this weekend is over. So it's definitely important that a lot of these players are coming on campus. I believe Jamarion Parker's also will be on campus this weekend as well. So, man, huge weekend for the Cornhuskers. Part 2 of our official visiting weekends, and we're hoping we can lock down some more 4-stars and some more quality guys in a search for at least a top 20 class, maybe even top 15. So let me know down in the comment section which one of those players are you the most hyped up to potentially land. Is it on the offensive side of the football, on defensive side of the football? And hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.